Hi, friends. Just gonna get settled here. Just got home from Taekwondo. My hair is still wet with sweat, but I did post out on, and let me just see my phone really fast. Mm. All right. I did post on the Fairfield Harbor pages earlier today that I would be going live this evening, right about now. Look at me doing what I said I was gonna do. Let me just find my post and comment. Let me just get the link from my phone. Give me 1 second. Are we prepared? No. Have we done this before? Yes. Should we? Sure. Copy link. I did have it set to start at 9:05. Just to give me time to get home and from Taekwondo and let me go back to the residence of find my post there and just make a comment on it with the link. All right, so maybe folks will join us. If not, if you watch this in replay, welcome. It is definitely after 5 o'clock everywhere. So I am maybe even on the West Coast it's after 5 o'clock. So tonight I'm gonna drink some sea glass Pinot Grigio, and we're just gonna fill it up. I just brought the whole bottle with me. The purpose of tonight's little live stream is for us to read through a letter that came out today that is 4 pages long, and it is from Les Pendleton to the community. I was seeing on Facebook in the thread sometime between probably 5:30 and 7 that not everybody got the letter today. So I'm hoping that it did go to everyone, and some folks just haven't seen it yet. So, and you will have to excuse me because I went to Taekwondo. Taekwondo on Tuesday nights is high intensity class, and I am still sweating and my hair is still wet. So, apologies for looking like this, but this is important. As we know, if I'm going to see anything, I have to put my glasses on. All right, so let me share my screen, and I'm going to keep my big screen up so I can see comments if anybody comes in. So this is the letter that came out. All I did was I took this letter in paper form. It was double-sided, and I scanned it so that I could digitally share it on here. And so I have not read this. I do not know what it says other than whenever I opened it, my eyes were drawn to put the U in Sue. And I giggled thinking if we'd have just put half of that marketing brain to work in the Fairfield Harbor point and the golf course, we should be rolling in the money. Am I right? But let's read through this letter together. This is Les Pendleton's thoughts on the Fairfield Harbor election. Even though I am the current president of the Fairfield Harbor Board of Directors, these are my personal statements and opinions as a property owner in this corporation, just like you. And again, the purpose of me reading this is so that I can live react. I have not read this. So I don't, and we've talked about this before if you've been here for any amount of time and watched any of my videos. We don't live in a corporation. Some of us work in corporations. That's not where we want to live. Some of us work for the weekend so we can get the hell out of the corporation. We live in a community. These are not just 2,700 houses. These are 2,700 plus homes with families that live in them. And I know that we have people running for the board today that agree that are, this is not just a business. We do not live within a business. Our board may serve as a business function of our larger community, but we live in a community with homes and people's lives, friends, neighbors. So just to start out, it being a corporation, just kind of misses the mark. I feel like I already have this deep gut sense that I know where this is going to go. So having said that and knowing my tendency to react, I just want us to close our eyes for a second, take a deep breath, and believe that Les Pendleton, with his personal statements, had our best interests of the people in this community, not corporation, at heart when he wrote this. So here we go. He had the best intentions. I have to tell myself that sometimes. He had the best intentions. He had the best intentions. He had the best intentions. Okay. My term on the board is expiring, and I am not seeking re-election. As a property owner and member, I will be standing in the same shoes as all of you on July 1st. My own property values and the values in the community that I call home are important to me, and I feel compelled to share my perspective as we approach the upcoming election of directors. I was recently discussing with a group some of the disruptive behavior of our two minority board members. Am I on glue? Is any board of director a minority? I'm sorry. Hold 1 second. FHPOA Board of Directors. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There are 9 people that sit on this board. Of those 9, there is a president, a vice president, a treasurer, a secretary, and 5 directors. I'm just going to nowhere. I'm confused because nowhere on this page that I am so fond of do we see minority. We don't have an email address for Mike Foster. But other than that, except for the folks with an actual title other than director, meaning they serve a purpose larger than the director level itself. I see I have 8 folks watching. Hi, good evening. I hope you're doing well. But we don't have anyone on the director that looks to have majority or seniority over everyone else. If that is the case, if we have directors on the board of directors that are a minority, I would like to see an asterisk, and I would like to have that defined. What is a minority board member? I don't No, that's very okay. So let's go back to the disruptive behavior of our two minority board members. And I was struck when these neighbors said, "We had no idea." When did they say that? Who did they say that to? In what context did they say that? Did you ask them a question of which they had no idea of what you were discussing? You have written multiple books, Les Pendleton. You are an author. You know how to gauge and capture your audience's attention. Again, all right. The board majority, again, who are those and how is that defined? Who is the board majority? And somebody, if you're watching this live stream, I know we have 8 folks on now. I think folks are starting to come in as I've posted the links. If you know what the board minority versus the board majority is, can you just put it in the comments? I would love for you to educate me because this is blowing my mind. And I'm like 6 sentences in. The board majority, in keeping with the code of conduct and ethical rules that all directors have signed, has taken the high road. He had the best interests, our best interests in mind. But they have taken the high road and attempted to work through the disruptions and the general nastiness that has been the hallmark of this last year of my board service. Well, the hallmark of your last year of your board service as the president should have been real freaking productive. But again, I don't know to whom you are speaking of as these two minority members. But as I leave the board, I think it's my obligation to lay out the plain facts for everyone in the harbor so that you can make an informed decision on the upcoming election. Our community is at a crossroads, and there has never been a more important time for everyone in the community who values steady and reasonable leadership and strong property values to vote. A vote for Deb and Neil. I'm sorry, let me reread that sentence. Our community is at a crossroads. Agreed. And there has never been a more important time for everyone in the community who values steady and reasonable leadership. That makes me feel like you're implying that that is you. And I'm just not here for it. Reasonable leadership and strong property values to vote and vote for Deb and Neil. I think it's ironic that the stoppers and their supporters are the very people who have done everything in their power to divide Fairfield Harbour and are now using the campaign slogan, Unity for the Community. Remember, these are the same people who put the U in Sue. And I'm just going to stop right there because somebody posted it on Facebook yesterday and said something to the effect of, I would like to know of the 71 plaintiffs on the lawsuit, how many of those are running for board office? And the answer is 0. You will not find Bob, Deb, Neil, Wayne, or Lee's name on the lawsuit. So let's just stop the bullshit right here. These are not the same people. Lee and Wayne, if that's who you're referring to here, the stoppers have not done everything to divide this community. If you read their page and the backing of other former board presidents and directors, it sounds like they have a pretty solid backing and that people have done their homework to interview these people and decide that, yes, we are going to put our names behind these candidates. These candidates running are not the same that put the U in Sue. I have a few other words in my head that have the letter U in them that I'm really trying hard to not say out loud. They are the same people that distribute misinformation and encourage distrust of our POA with fear-mongering tactics. Again, I would love to know how, because I don't hear from Wayne and Lee unless I have a question. I don't hear from Deb, and I did not go to their campaigns because I don't feel like I want to sit outside in a community or wherever where the whole purpose is to shake hands and kiss babies and make sure that you're putting your best foot forward, as we all know, that honeymoon period only lasts for a certain amount of time. I want to see real live facts. I want to see real live action, and I want to hear real things that these people have done and or plan to do, understanding that we have guardrails in place that guide what and how things within our board can be done. Contracts that have been signed, things like that that we have to work within, and that's not impossible. These same people have sued our community. Again, these candidates have not sued this community. And 4 of the directors personally, including me. Yes, if you live here, you are part of the Fairfield Harbour Property Owners Association that was sued. That's not a point. That is what it is. That's not a jab. That's not a you're different than me or what that is just is what it is. Um The cost of the lawsuit and all of the other actions these stoppers used to bring about chaos and discord among the neighbors and in the boardroom have cost our community dearly. They have diminished Fairfield Harbor's reputation in the greater New Bern area with their continuous disparaging social media posts and attempt to totally obstruct any forward momentum of this community. Again, no. These stoppers helped elect Chris Barajas and Don Moore. Keep in mind that Chris Barajas and Don Moore were backed by former board officers and directors. They were backed by and strongly encouraged, like they had a backing. The community came around them and agreed with that backing. A majority, I might add. So the fact that you are making this less more of the you versus them, right? The us versus them. Don't do that. You are a leader in this community. You do not have to point fingers. Do what you said you were going to do in the first paragraph and rise above the fray. Help us see what is unseen, but you are continuing to perpetuate what you're saying you hate in this letter. And I'm only halfway through page 1, and we got 3 more pages to go. I'm sorry, I'm getting back to where I was. These stoppers helped elect Chris Barajas and Don Moore for the board and want to do more of the same with this year's candidates, Wayne Anderson and Lee Fawcett. Please do not be fooled by misinformation and rhetoric. Our community cannot afford any more of the candidates to occupy. Our community cannot afford any more of their candidates. Again, that it literally says us versus them. Their candidates to occupy board of director positions. Anderson and Fawcett are running on the pledge that if they are elected, there will be more of the same chaos, lawsuits, recall elections, obstruction, and discord. Here is what the Anderson and Fawcett's promotional materials say. I did a live stream last night on what the actual materials say, went through their websites. And again, that live stream is available for you to review. I made a public apology earlier today on this very Facebook, on this very YouTube stream to Deb Harris because I learned that Sandy Sutton is the author of the information that was handed out at her and Neil, Deb and Neil's rally or campaign social. I am not going to rehash that here, but please go back and watch it if you have not already. I would love that. And I would love your feedback. We are running to join Chris and Don to fulfill the commitment they made to you, the property owners of Fairfield Harbour. We share their values and priorities and look forward to joining them on the board. We are running with their full support and endorsement. I don't see anything wrong with that statement. It looks to be that Deb and Neil, based on the last sentence of your first paragraph, are fully backed and have your endorsement, Les Pendleton. So what is different about what about what Wayne and Lee are doing than what you are actively doing through this letter? There is no difference. You are doing exactly what you are pointing the finger at and condemning somebody else for doing. If Anderson and Fawcett were to be added as board members along with Don Moore and Chris Barajas, they will control the board and this community. You know what they will be? They will be part of a new board that has never existed before. There has never existed a board where I understand from today that Kevin Heidel tendered his resignation. So maybe there will be a third position open up. Will it open up, understanding the timing of this, for there to be a third director position open up? Who knows? I'm sure that somebody's going to be letting us know soon. But having said that, the board that is coming will have never existed before, no matter who gets on it. So do not make assumptions about what will happen. They will control the board and this community. The board of directors as a whole controls this community. Do not try to create a smokescreen here. The board controls the community because we elect them to do as much in our stay as our representatives. It would be an utter disaster for us all, for all of us. So far, in legal bills alone, these groups have cost us. Again, these groups do not include Wayne and Lee. So that you're making an implication here. I'm just kind of in my mind connecting dots. You did not say as much, but I think that we need to separate the lawsuit from these two candidates. Chris Barajas, Don Moore, Wayne Anderson, Lee Fawcett are not in the lawsuit. So stop saying they have cost us hundreds of thousands of dollars. They have not. They forced the community to go through a needless recall election a year ago, which cost us over $10,000, even though the same two members they wished to replace were up for community-wide re-election just 30 days later. Yeah, the timing was unfortunate. I also did a whole podcast on that when it was happening. And I don't call it pointless. I call it making a point. When you have a board who feels like they supersede the authority of the people that voted them in office, people have to hold you accountable and people have to stand up and say, no more. That's what that was. No more. We need these two people gone. And a majority, let's not forget, showed up to cast their vote as such. Okay? Because that's why they're no longer on the board. The lawsuit still continues and forced the community to pay a $50 assessment forced the community to pay a $50 assessment fee per the POA member to pay for ongoing legal bills. Their supporters have called local television stations and brought out reporters to trash the community throughout the region. This certainly didn't help opinions of Fairfield Harbour to people living here and outside of the community. It probably let people know that the people in Fairfield Harbour are not to be fucked with. Right? Maybe that's the campaign slogan. FAFO. Okay? In Fairfield Harbour. And maybe people will want to move here because we have a community with a backbone. We have a community that supports each other, and we have elected officials in a board office position that is putting forth the agenda that the community was helped inform and that the community was able to have a voice in. Then the community stands behind the board, and the board is not acting separate and aside from the community at large. So maybe people want to move here because they know that their voice will be heard. They have other POAs, HOAs across New Bern, Craven County, Pamlico County that they could go move to, but they don't. We still have people moving in. We have people that moved in last weekend. We offered to help. So stop that. Stop that. Not to mention many flyers trashing the POA board in everyone's newspaper boxes, and now they're doing it again. Did you get a paper in your mailbox? We got 12 people on the live stream. Have you gotten a paper in your mailbox in the last 30, 60 days bashing the current board? I got this paper in my brown box recently. It's rained on. But I read this and it's exactly what's on the website, and there's nothing about the current board on this. So you let me know if you've gotten something in your mailbox bashing the current board. I would love to see it. Bashing the Fairfield, they say what they want to help they say they want to help Fairfield Harbour, yet continue aggressively attempt to hurt it in every way possible. Examples. Give examples. How have these candidates tried to hurt this community in every way possible? Do tell. I'm here. Rants by their supporters and online bullying for anyone who disagrees with them are posted daily on Facebook and other websites that they created for that very purpose. I'm going to assume that you're including this podcast in that. And I want you to know that I did not create this podcast for that purpose, but you only help me by giving the fodder for me to talk about. Hence this letter, hence this live stream. If you would do what you are supposed to do and lead this community in a way that people feel supported and backed and that their voices are heard, this wouldn't need to happen. This live stream wouldn't exist. I would have nothing to talk about at this point except for the boring old newsletter that comes out every week that has nothing in it from the actual board itself. Come on. Here are some proposals and ideas their supporters and candidates have expressed that they would like to see implemented. Replace the entire board of directors with people who share their values. I do think, I don't know, Wayne, Lee, Bob, well, I had a text exchange with Deb earlier today, and I've never met Neil in person. But I would venture to say that them or any future candidate for this community wants the voice of everybody in this community to be heard. I don't think we want to wipe the slate and have a bunch of robots that just do what we ask. I think the board should hold us as community members accountable for paying our dues, making sure that we show up. When people are not voting, we find out why. Is it a communication breakdown? Is it that the ballot didn't work for you? Is it that you're behind on dues? How can we help you get that shored up so that you can vote in the next election? I think if you can take the approach of being a productive board versus sitting back and just being like, well, of the people in this community, we've only got 60 whatever percent that have paid their dues. So those are the only people that can vote. I don't think we want the entire board of directors and people to share our values. I don't think we want a bunch of yes men sitting in the POA office. I think that's what got us in this place, to this point in the first place. Close the Harbor Point Golf Course. This would certainly lower everyone's home value. How so? Please tell me how that would lower my home value when nobody goes to eat there. Maybe 25, 30 people a week. Based off of the information that I saw on Facebook this week, they turn over the tables like one time a night, and they've got 20-ish tables in there. I I don't think we want it closed. I think we want to have a fiscally responsible plan for making sure that our money is not being wasted in a pit that has no plan to market and increase revenues. I do think that's true. Fire Troon, the community management company who is operating under a 5-year contract. And how many years are we into that contract? Do tell. They are a nationwide company and the largest golf course management company in the nation. They are a multi-million-dollar company and would not hesitate to sue us if we violate the contract. I don't think anybody's asked to violate the contract. I think people have asked to see the contract because we want to understand what you signed us up for. And not you, Les. I'm sure that it was a board prior to you. But whatever. We want to see the contracts. We want to know what we as community members have signed up for. And we want to be able to make a decision. And we want to be able to help inform the board that we elect and put in office to help see through our vision. How are we even as community members and neighbors and property owners able to cast a vision and give the board input when we have no idea what we're already signed up for? How do we know that they will sue us because we violate the contract? It's a 5-year contract. When did that contract start? When does it end? Give us some information that we can help inform the board what our wishes are. This is not hard. Fire Jennifer, and I swear I always call her Judatis, and I've heard her name pronounced differently this entire, 4 years we've lived here. Sorry, Jennifer. I really wish I knew how to pronounce your last name. But our community manager, who has followed the rules of the community as she is required to do, even though some residents don't like to follow the rules. I don't think that's it at all. I like working with Jennifer. Jennifer is so nice to me every time I call her. The multiple times that I've been into the office, she is so responsive. She takes my check when I have dues money. Emily, I'll make sure that you get a receipt. Kind of busy when I went in there to deliver our checks for the dues. There was like a line of people. I literally just handed them over. She was like, "I'll make sure you get a receipt. It's fine. I take your time." She's always come around. She has come in to talk to me. She is the nicest person. I think where I have issue is whenever I hear that people have abdicated their spots on board appointed or board backed committees because, for example, property control committee. I know someone who told me that they had to leave that committee because they put in their violations and then they were told, we'll put these straight through except for these handful because we need to make sure that the board sees them before we decide what to do with them. Are we picking and choosing who gets fines and who doesn't? We want things to be fair. We want the rules to be followed by everybody. I think there's question about whether or not the board picks and choose what cases win or lose in the adjudicatory panels that exist, in the committees that exist where fines are a result of violating our rules and bylaws. We just want it to apply to everyone, not everyone that doesn't agree with me, right? I don't think we're asking for Jennifer to be fired, to be real. I've not heard that. Fire Hope Carmichael. Now that our community attorney, who is one of the leading authorities on HOAs in the state. And do you not find it funny that we as a board would hire an attorney who represents HOAs, not the community members? And if you look up Hope Carmichael and some of the lawsuits that she has both won and lost, she is not for the people, of the people, by the people, with the people. She is for the business, of the business, funded by the business. And that we are not a business. These are people, people's lives. We don't want to file lawsuits. But I think it's real funny when North Carolina has two general statutes that just this year finally made it beyond where they had been kind of pushed into a corner in years past. And Hope Carmichael is one of the leading authorities to help inform those bills. And yet she is the one giving advice from my point of view to the board and others that will listen, that make sure that the board is untouchable. And I think that's what separates Hope Carmichael from the rest of us. There's a difference between being a lawyer and being someone who just wants to make sure that things are fair and that policies, protocols, procedures, contracts are being followed. When we have to come up with the truths that could be told to people, and which one are we going to tell based on the narrative that we want to weave and the way that things are worded in the bylaws, when we have to start cultivating a story that fits within a picture that we need to create because you could see it a couple different ways, I have a problem with that. And the fact that we pay somebody to do that for our board, I have a bigger problem with that. So her firm wrote many of the laws governing HOAs in North Carolina. Hence my point. They resent the fact that she has called them out when they went against state of North Carolina law or misrepresented our bylaws. I don't think anybody's done that. I would like an example. I would like an example where this group of plaintiffs and or anyone who is currently a candidate for the board of director positions that are coming open in June, I would like to know who has gone against the state of North Carolina law or misrepresented our bylaws. Give me an example. Again, this same as Sandy Sutton's crap that she put out at the Deb and Neil's whatever social. This is not facts. You are giving us no quantitative, qualitative data to go off of. You are just spouting what outside of the context of this letter that people received that has no date on it, doesn't even include the year in the header, and you did not actually sign to print your signature on. I just, it falls short to me. Close the Point restaurant and try to leave it out to an operator. Yeah, good luck with that, he says. Ooh, the restaurant loses money and is primarily an amenity to the community that many of us support. It keeps us from driving 10 or 15 miles for a hamburger. I hate that you have to drive for a hamburger. But they don't cater to the people that live here. People with small kids that just want to go for a hamburger. The last time that we went to the Harbor Club, I will tell you, we went there. It was prime rib night. My husband loves prime rib. We walk in, a family of 4. Our bill is never less than $200. And we walked in, this has been last year at least, because we said we would never go back. And we walked in as a family of 4, and they were like, "Oh, help yourself to the prime rib, like it's buffet style. What can we get you to drink?" And I was like, "Well, my kids need a different menu. Like, what do you have for kids tonight?" And they were like, "Oh, no, everybody's eating prime rib." Not my kids. I'm not paying $45 a plate for a 9 and a 10-year-old to eat dinner. You got a hot dog back there? Like, I just don't, and it took us walking out being like, "No, that's fine. We're not gonna pay $45 times 4 people to eat some prime rib." We start to walk out the door before somebody walked outside. We had already started down the stairs, and we're like, "We'll find something for the kids if you wanna come back and eat." Well, it's too late. We have already made other opinions to go somewhere else, like, we have already changed our mind. But if you don't cater to the people that live here, people aren't gonna go. Here's one you'll enjoy. I can't wait. One of the candidates said the POA offices should not be in the new community center, but instead be located at the cart barn across the street from it after renovating it. Never heard that. I explained that the reason it's called the cart barn is because it was built as a barn for horses that were kept there in the history of Fairfield Harbor. It has no foundation which would support any kind of actual building. It would be a tear down and a new building would have to be built there. That would not make any sense with a brand new building designed to accommodate the POA office nearly finished right across the street. Well, first of all, if I recall correctly, the survey that went out right before we moved in, we had been told by our real estate agent about the survey, and that a majority of people voted for a rec center, not a community center. So the fact that the rec was taken out of the center was issue in and of itself. Nobody wanted the offices right across the street. I've never heard of somebody wanting the cart barn to be used for offices. That I've never heard of. So I am here's one you'll enjoy. I don't know, that falls flat. Here are some factual great facts. Background on actions by POA Board of Directors Chris Barajas and Don Moore. With no authorization by the POA or the board, they went to Truist Bank in New Bern together. They tried to convince a young bank officer they had the right to examine all of the community bank accounts, even though they were not on any signature cards. The bank employee told them they could not and brought in the bank manager. With improper assertions, they convinced her that they had the authority. She reluctantly allowed them access, even though it was a serious violation of federal law. The manager called the POA office after the meeting to alert them to what had occurred and apologized profusely. Okay, I'm going to tell you something right now. If somebody walked into a bank and asked to see your bank records and they are not a signature authority on your account, that bank teller and that bank manager would call to validate before they gave those records. No one wants to be in violation of federal statutes that protect the financial welfare of a corporation, if you will. So, forgive me if I don't believe that shit further than I can throw it. I'm sorry. No bank in the world would give you information with as much that goes on around phishing, privacy. I need proof. I need camera video from the bank that shows them there. I need proof that that person showed them information that they were supposedly not able to see as a member of the board of directors, which we voted them in to represent us. But what have you, if they didn't have authority, 100%. Truist Bank does not want that lawsuit. We are 2,700 people within a community that have loans for millions of dollars, that give millions of dollars in dues every year, that have asked repeatedly for financial statements, P&L statements, and you have failed to produce those. And maybe it's because Troon doesn't even know what a P&L statement is, and they lead our financial reporting. And so you can only report out what they give you. Tell us that, because that'll go into our informed decision about whether or not we terminate their contract at the end of their 5-year term, whenever that is. You didn't tell us. So I find it really hard to believe that this A, has never been communicated before, B, had no more severe consequences than what happened, given the nature of you saying that 2 people walked into a bank and asked to see financial records of which they had no authority, and you're telling me that reluctantly a manager of a branch of that national bank gave over information before they called to validate that they could have access to it. Do not believe that. I do not believe that. Chris and Dawn were admonished by the board for their actions, even though more serious measures could have been taken. The board chose to not publicly censure these two in an attempt to improve, not deepen the divide of the board. No, sir. You don't get to say that after this entire letter to this point has been to point fingers and create dissension and discord without quantifiable facts and proof. Evidence, if you will. Maybe you and Sandy can work together and come up with something a little bit more concrete. The board chose to publicly censure. Okay, I'm sorry. All they had to do to see the accounts was to ask the board or Jennifer. Do you think that anyone will ask the board or Jennifer if they don't trust the board or Jennifer? Asking for a friend. When we don't promote and sow seeds of trust, people start to act in accordance with what they feel is best for the community at large. I do not believe that this happened, one. But even if it did happen, you can't tell me that all they had to do was ask you, when we, the community, have been asking you for financial statements for at least the 4 years that I have been here, beyond what you share at the budget meeting. So don't give me that. We're not asking the board or Jennifer. If you had it, you would have produced it already. The community manager, and they would have been allowed to go over the bank records as they wanted. But they chose a deceitful and potential criminal method. Yeah, Chris Barajas, a former police officer, chose a criminal method to go into a bank and seek information that he was unable to attain. And someone just no. Put that on 60 minutes. Make that a 2020 episode. This is not true. I cannot believe this is true. I'm sorry. Our attorney, Hope Carmichael, handled this incident for the POA and is aware of what transpired. Hope, I hope you ask for some more information. I mean, honestly, there is no way that this happened and all they got was their hand slapped. You cannot tell me. You cannot tell me. I'm sorry. I can't. That didn't happen. After the lawsuit was filed against the community, a law firm was hired after the lawsuit was filed against the community. Okay, so we're back on the lawsuit. A law firm was hired by our insurance carrier to represent the POA. I found it interesting that I think it's I saw it in something yesterday, the name of the insurance agency that we're using. Anyway, I think it's the one that represented Amber Heard when she lost. Louise, great comment. I love your name, Wheezy. I've never called you that. I've never heard anybody call you that. Maybe someone can ask and answer what the board members have done to Dawn and most especially Chris. Yeah, it's a great question. Great question. So after the lawsuit, the insurance carrier hired a law firm to represent the board, so the POA. So we got Hope. We're paying Hope, and our insurance carrier has hired their own legal firm, which as one does. Okay, the board had earlier chosen me, Larry Baisden, and Julie Finlayson to be the litigation committee to communicate with the law firm. Well, that was poor decision making on the part of the board because you haven't communicated with anybody in this community to date. So the fact that you would be the litigation committee to communicate with the law firm, I hardly believe. Chris and Dawn would get full reports as events took place, just like the other directors who were not on the litigation committee. So is it the other directors who were not on the litigation? Is that the minority directors we talked about on page 1? Or is it Chris and Dawn? Are they the minority members? I'm still not clear on who these minority members are and how we have not continued to mention who is and is not a minority member and use that as context here. Chris and Dawn would get full reports as events took place, just like the other directors who were not on the litigation committee. So 3 out of 9 people on the board, so 6 people wouldn't be on that committee. Okay. Shortly thereafter, the board was copied on a letter to Chris and Dawn from our insurance. Shortly thereafter, the board was copied on a letter to Chris and Dawn from our insurance carrier's attorney, informing them that they could not discuss the case with them since they were not part of the litigation committee. They knew this before they had made the attempt to once again go behind the back of the board to acquire any information they could. Is it because you're not communicating? It sounds as though they believe you were communicating with this legal team and not doing what you said you would do and giving full reports on the events that took place. So I don't know what the timeline is of this because you give little to no detail that is factual, but maybe they weren't getting what they needed from you per usual and went to try to get it on their own. I mean, I honestly, again, if after the bank incident, which again, I do not believe happened, you cannot make me believe that that happened. And then we go and they're looking for information again and they get copyright. And then what did you do? Again, the POA again, they were admonished without further steps being taken to punish them or their unethical conduct. We elected you board members to represent our community. You have a code of ethics and bylaws to follow. The fact that 2 people you assert allegedly stepped out of line 2 times to get information that they should not have been privy to based on their role on the board of directors and their ability to have access to financial statements from a bank. And you don't step up and call their asses out on the table because they are not meeting our code of ethics and bylaws, that's a problem for the entire board. If the board is not willing to stand up and protect the best interests of this community, you damn well better bet that we want the entire board gone. We want people with a backbone that can stand up and say, I don't agree with you, but I would like to hear your point of view. Help me understand where we're coming from here. And we come to a compromise. And when people step And when people step out of line and put the security of our financial data and put the security of a lawsuit at risk and you do nothing and you want to say it's like, oh, well, we didn't want to do anything to further the dissension and the discord in the community. Bullshit. I cannot. That's why we put you in office. You 9 represent 2,700 plus homes. I'm going to venture to say that most homes have more than one person in them. So that's more than probably 3,000 people that live in Fairfield Harbor if you put people to this corporation. We put you on the board. You were elected in by a majority of us because we thought that you could handle our business. If you can't, of which you are proving in this letter that you assert and point fingers at Dawn, I'm sure that no one else on the board has done anything. I'm sure it's just them. But give me a freaking break. Grow a backbone. I mean, honestly. After being noted, okay, and again, our POA attorney is aware. Again, I can't imagine that an attorney that we pay hundreds of thousands of dollars for, who is now representing us in a lawsuit, just allows the board to just slap the hands of 2 people that potentially put them in serious legal trouble. And either they did it because they don't have a backbone, they didn't do it because it didn't happen, and this is just something that we have to believe because somebody put it on paper, or I just lost my train of thought. Or this why would an attorney that represents this corporation not hold the board accountable for making sure that 2 board of directors that are seeking information outside of their span of control or need to know basis? Why would we not hold him to it if it didn't happen, if we couldn't prove it? It's not to just make sure that we, the people, are not in discord and unhappy with what is happening. You haven't give a shit about how we feel up to date. I believe it was less you who were like, and we have so many experts in this community. I, I what would be the reason that we would not hold these 2 board members accountable? When that's what we actually voted you in to do. One of the things that you are supposed to be doing is making sure our best interests are in mind. That's what's going to keep me up tonight. After being notified of being in violation of the community sign policy, Mr. Barajas, oh my God. Mr. Barajas went into the POA office and verbally assaulted the ladies working there. I want folks to know, if you don't know Chris Barajas, he is a former police officer. He is very well spoken. He is very articulate. He is methodical in how he thinks about things. I met him, I think the first time I met him, I was in Harris Teeter, and I don't know if I said something. Oh, I think it was my hat. I was wearing my New Bern hat, and he caught me on the baking aisle, and we stood there and had a conversation for the longest time. It was way before he was ever a board director, like on the board. And I've talked to him a handful of times since then, just in passing. And I cannot imagine him verbally assaulting the ladies that work in there, when the ladies that work in there are Kathleen, Jennifer, Beth at the time, maybe Cindy, depending on the time frame. He berated them until they were frightened for their safety, and they said they were shaken. Later, Mr. Barajas, I'm going to keep reading for a second. Later, Mr. Barajas' wife verbally assaulted them as well and said they were racists because they didn't like Latinos. Who's Latino? Everyone in the office, to my knowledge, at the time that this probably happened, which was before Beth left, would have been Caucasian. Are Chris and Barbara Latina? I'm so confused. The sign was from a Bible verse. It was Ephesians something something. I see it when I do the big gondolier loop every single day. I leave my house, I go straight down, I make the big curve, I come back up, and I pass it. And the sign, you would even have to look it up. It is basic, but they're racist. None of the board or office staff knew or cared what their nationality was. This is, to my mind, completely unacceptable behavior for anyone, especially someone on the board of directors. Well, keep in mind that Barbara's not on the board of directors. She is a private citizen. Her husband may be on the board, but I assure you she is not on the board. And none of the board knows what to do. This was completely unacceptable behavior by anyone, especially someone on the board of directors. The ladies working in the office have directly said that they are frightened by Mr. Barajas. Don Moore and Chris Barajas have been major obstructionists ever since joining the board of directors. Hold on. So 3 years. So they've been on there for like a year. And and they have been so for a year since they joined the board, June 2024, let's call it. Since they joined the board, they have been major obstructionists, but yet the board has not felt the need to call out to the community that we need to do what we did last year and put our full support behind voting them out. They have allowed them, with only a hand slap, to go to a bank in person, evidently, and get records that they should not have had access to. And we're not putting the accountability or the responsibility on the bank to have stopped that or the board at large when the bank would have called to verify. And then we have the lawsuit where they reached out beyond what they were supposed to have had information for to try to get more information. And yet we didn't do anything about that. And then we verbally assaulted 3 people, at least, maybe, in the office, called them racists. When we have a sheriff's office that comes in, like a sheriff's deputy, uses that office as like a point of reference for community needs. And we didn't ask that sheriff to step in, that deputy to step in, McFadden. We didn't ask him or Chip Hughes to step in. Hey, this is happening. Our people are being verbally assaulted. They are scared for their lives. And we didn't make a police report and make sure that people in the community knew that that happened so that we could help back the board in taking appropriate measures to get these 2 people out, all because we didn't want to sow further discord. Mm, I think it I mm, I'm gonna let people sit with that. I'm gonna let them make their own decision, but I personally, knowing Chris, I that's some shit right there. I just I'm sorry, Craig. I'm not forget I they've been withholding information, including contract. They've been holding information, including contracts from Don and Chris and all of us. We have all been asking for them. Yes, Craig, this is not new. This is not new. That we've been asking for financial statements and contracts for years, at least the ones that I've had. And this is why I didn't get past the first sentence. It's all BS. I'm not surprised. Agreed. It's all BS. I can't even. And then Louise, they also had a secret meeting and it was brought up and to be put on record in the minutes. I haven't verified. Well, lucky for you, I did have a little bird reach out to me about minutes recently. So I'll be doing a deep dive. I don't know when, but I'm going to be doing a deep dive into some meeting minutes. So I think, what page are we on? 3? Okay. Do not forget who sued us and who is supporting Anderson and Fawcett ticket. Yeah, let's not forget who sued you. And of those 71 people, these names are not on it. These groups have yet to disclose to the community exactly what their plans are, and other than to take control of everything. I don't think that we want to take control of everything, and I don't think that Don and Chris want to take control of anything, and I don't think we have a crystal ball to know who's going to win this election coming up in June. I think everybody is doing their best to make sure that people feel heard and that they understand what the issues are in this community, and we got issues. You know what I'm saying? So, these groups have yet to disclose to the community exactly what their plans are. You, sir, being the board president, have yet to disclose anything that we have asked for in the past 4 years. So whenever you point the finger like this, these 3 fingers are pointing right back at you. I have had a home here for over 20 years, and anyone who actually knows me will tell you I have always been an ambassador for Fairfield Harbour and loved this place. Sounds like you love the power on the board. I fear for what will happen to it if you let more people on the board, if you let, not me let, not we let, but if you let. This, he's putting the responsibility on you as a community owner. We are no longer we, a singular united community, or trying to be. This is a me versus you. If they get in, it's your fault, not my fault. This is called gaslighting. If you let more people on the board who have already made a pledge to help Chris Barajas and Don Moore control Fairfield Harbor, I am terribly afraid that the unity they want to put in the community will not be the kind of collaboration that will benefit anyone who lives here. When I became president of the board, I insisted that POA meetings would become open to all POA members and held in the community center so that anyone could make comments who wished. Did you now? That's so funny. Because you've been on the board how long? And I don't know of any board meeting that has been open to any more than the number of seats that are made available in that room. And I know of the open meetings that are open to the community, and we go meet at that little community center at the fire department, and you lock the door at 80 people or so. And last year, when it became candidates night, it was very apparent that there were 50 or so people stacked in favor of the candidates that the board was backing, because when people would come up wanting space in the room, there were people stepping to the side to say, "Oh, I don't need the seat. I'll just go back outside." Mm-hmm. And I did live stream a meeting recently so that other people could attend online. I think we had at one point, I don't remember the exact number of people that joined that live stream, but it was more than the people in the room. So you had the people in the room plus the people online, which was more than most people get to attend in any meeting. So the fact that this upcoming candidates night is again in a room where we can only have 80 people, we have said we will not live stream it, but let Al record it and make it available after the fact, which is so convenient because it gives folks time to edit the video. Not saying that Al would. I'm just saying that the perception when people don't trust you is that we will record it and we will make it available after, because it allows us time in order to manipulate that video in some way and or put some context around it to make sure that you get the message we want you to receive. Why not live stream it? Why not let 2,700 people be able to join this meeting when no building, not even the new community center that we have a loan for $6+ million for? Why don't we it's not even going to hold all of us. So where are we going to meet less that everybody in the community can come to an open meeting? Where's that going to be? I would love to know. I insisted that meetings would be open to all. It quickly became a stopper complaint session for the most part when stoppers would sling dirt at board members who had to sit back and take it. Those who have witnessed this have said that they would never be on the board. We also have made available, to the extent allowed under law and respecting proprietary issues with vendors, all documents community members wanted to examine. Not true. There are some who are saying that the community is in financial distress. This is factually incorrect. The current majority of the board made certain that the POA lived within its budget, finished the year with a surplus, and did not borrow any money for operational expenses or increased dues. With many obstacles arising during the fiscal year, this was no small accomplishment. The $50 assessment for legal costs was a direct result of the Dan Ritter lawsuit against the community. Just Dan Ritter, one of the 71, but we're going to call one person out that we need to blame. And I'm surprised here it doesn't say the lawsuit and put Don and this entire letter has called out as if Don and Chris and Wayne and Lee are also on said lawsuit. This letter is a mess. This letter is a mess. Yes, Carol, if he is writing this as a regular citizen, why is he telling board secrets? Because he's not a leader. Because leaders don't act this way. When something goes wrong, if you think about it at work and in a corporation where you have strong leadership, right? People don't want to, they're not leaving because of leadership. When there is an issue that arises, hey, we're not getting what we need from marketing. The marketing director does not go and say, well, you haven't gotten what you needed because this person and this person didn't do their job. And this is what has resulted you not getting what you need. What a good leader does is say, hey, I understand that these issues have come to the table. Let me tell you why we cannot share with you a P&L, a balance sheet. Let me tell you why I can't share with you the Troon contract. Let me tell you why I can't share with you the community center financial statements and how the ongoing maintenance has been factored into the board. Let me tell you why we haven't been able to do that. And on behalf of the board, these are the reasons. And we will be able to share those with you once we have X, Y, and Z in place. You do not point out the people under you that are doing the work, the yeoman's work. That is the sign of a poor leader. Someone who will point fingers and call people out by name. They didn't do what they needed to do. They didn't do what they needed to do. They didn't do what they needed to do, which is why all of us collectively are unhappy. And that's just not true. You, as the leader, president of the board, should take accountability for what your board under your leadership is doing and be able to articulate, this is what I've heard you ask for. This is why we as a board can't do it. And do not put your people out there. These people that are sitting on the board say, and people that are watching you say that they would never be on the board because they would never be on the board under you, because they would never want someone in a leadership position over them that treats people the way you are treating people. That just is what it is. Exactly. So if we're going to talk about a corporation, that's how you open this letter up. And you're going to treat us all as employees instead of people who live, breathe, work, play, leisure around this Fairfield Harbour community. If you want to work like a corporation, I suggest you read Crucial Confrontations. I suggest you read High Performance Habits. I suggest you put some corporate key performance indicators in place that you can throw onto a Gantt chart, create us a Venn diagram, if you will. Do whatever you want to do, but be a leader, step up to the plate, stop blaming people, and take accountability. I was not allowed to see the contract for security for 5 to 6 years ago when the security's responsibilities were changed. And why? You are a member of this community who pays dues. All we wanted to, and again, if there's a reason why we can't share it, maybe it's being renegotiated. Maybe the contract is under default and we have legal counsel involved to help mediate that situation. There are always reasons why we can't do something, but give us something or we will find it because we are not dumb. We are grown ass adults that have a life and we have higher standards for ourselves than it would seem the board has for itself. And that's a problem. Sorry. Um, this is factually incorrect. The current, okay, you know what? Whether or not we have money in the bank, whether or not we have money in reserves, nobody knows. Nobody knows what we have. We have the financial statements that were most recently published in February from the budget meeting, but we don't have anything since then. There's a month over month budget. We've got the loans coming in for the community center. I'm sure the last one I saw, there was something that I was expecting to see in there that I did not see. Anyway, who knows? And again, what I also found interesting was I had a recent conversation with someone about the way that our budget is constructed on monies that we actually have had in place versus money that is forecasted to come in based on dues, based on golf club performance, based on restaurant performance. And there is I don't think that any of us have a good understanding of the budget from the perspective of, is the budget based on money we actually have, or is it money that we think we might have if everybody does what they say they're going to do? I mean, at the end of the day, there's a very big difference in those two trains of thought. And I think we all need to have a great understanding of what that looks like. All of this mess started over the construction of the new Harbor Club. I don't think that's true. This mess started, the construction of the Harbor Club, that started recent. We've been here for 4 years, and I can tell it's gotten worse. But there's been dissension and discord and conversations about the board at least since 2021 when I moved in. A stellar community facility that benefits everyone in the community. Please tell me how so. I would love to know how the Bartlett family is going to be able to benefit from the community center. Please go look at it. Please think about the fact that for a very low annual dues, you live in a community that has a place to hold vibrant community events, private functions like wedding receptions or parties for members. We're going to have private wedding functions. People are going to drive 6 miles down Broad Creek Road to come into a place that's not going to have plates and glasses. I think the last meeting that I was in, and we asked about the silverware and stuff like that, and they were like, well, whoever you hire to cater is going to be able to provide all of that. Yeah, at an additional cost. But why are we having an event space that on its face can't actually hold an event without some paper plates being brought to the event? I just I would love to know how Emily Bartlett's going to benefit. Wedding receptions and parties for members. I'm sure that the renters won't be able to use it or anybody outside. I roll my eyes. That hurt. I will attract strong buyers for your properties when you are ready to sell. It is clear that FH Stop and the Dan Ritter lawsuit wants to stop any progress in our community. That's not true. The lawsuit on its face is because our board took liberties with 2 new board members, did not make them aware of what they could and could not have done at their very first board meeting, and chose to change the amount of votes it takes to kick one of you out of office when you're not doing what you do, and evidently the board won't hold you accountable to do what you are supposed to do, but now we can't get you out without 67% of our vote so that you could save your ass. That's what the lawsuit is about. So this is I hope people read the lawsuit and understand what it is on its face. And he says, I hope everyone now realizes the tremendous asset that is being built for the benefit of all. You've already said that. Asked and answered. For somebody who is an author of multiple books, I would have expected this letter to have been written better. It's obvious his editor does a lot. I also hope senior patio homes on green space is how FH Stop got started. Thank you, Carol. Yes. We don't want senior patio homes on our green space. We want our green space. I also hope everyone realizes that the fear mongering about dues skyrocketing to pay for it is simply not true, yet to be seen. And I hope everyone understands that supporting the FH Stop agenda and the candidates that stand behind it mean more upheaval, lower property values, and a continued negative reputation for our community. I think, just personally, and I'm going to say this off the cuff and I may regret it in the morning, but really, I think that the day that the current board members rolling off get out and are not reelected is the day that this community can take a collective sigh of relief. The board itself can work within itself to figure out what do we want? How do we want to act as a board? We're going to have new leadership with Les leaving as president. Somebody else is going to step into that president role. What is the legacy that you want to leave behind? What is the level of commitment that you want from the board of directors that are going to serve under you? What is the tone? How are you going to approach this community given the amount of discord that has prevailed over the past several years? How are you going to overcome that? I think that this is a collective breath of fresh air, even if it's not Wayne and Lee, even if it's not Deb and Neil. What if it's a combination of like Lee and Bob? We all have to work together. The board is meant to be representative of all of us, not just the people that agree with Les Pendleton, not just the people that agree with Phil, not just the people that agree with Dawn, not just the people that agree with Emily. It is meant to be representative of all of us. Our board of directors are essentially aldermen. If you think about this from the perspective of a small city where we would have constituents that act on our behalf, we are voting in essentially aldermen to act in our best interests. This is not just a board of directors. These are people that act as county commissioners or folks at a city level on our behalf. And I think it would help us all if we would look at this from that lens. Okay. Where did I get to? And I hope everyone understands that whatever. I just can't even read that again. What does that ultimately mean? It means your property values will stagnate or go down. Not a fact. You have no facts to back that up. Just like everyone's did in 2015 and 2016 when the shoreline course was closed and anyone who came into the community saw a stagnant, failing infrastructure. I have every faith that the majority of owners in the harbor understand this and will vote for Deb and Neil to maintain stability in our property values. I have yet to hear or see Deb and Neil say anything about property values. I just read their bios last night. Deb talked about her hospitality management and everything that she was brought in to do. The board asked her to participate to help the restaurant and the golf course, given her hospitality background. And yet she gave us zero details about what she has actually done while she has been sitting on the board to help support those. I've seen nothing from Neil Watts about what his plan is to help home values specifically. And if you look at the shit that came out from, what was her name, Sandy Sutton, that was all about, there was property values discussed in there. But again, that didn't come from Deb, as I learned today. and wrongly accused her for, of which I have apologized. Don't do this. You are throwing shade. You are putting out smoke screens here. The POA board is separately putting out a message. I hope you do. I'd love to read it on here. To the community to share the factual public document information that was filed with the North Carolina Business Court. For what? And I encourage everyone to read it and understand the truth, not the FH Stop propaganda that assaults us in our brown boxes and on Facebook. I, again, have seen nothing in my brown box. Have you seen anything in your brown box? Come on, Carol, Louise. Y'all see everything. Craig, tell me. This is not the first letter like this. It didn't work the last time he wrote a letter. Yeah, it didn't. Oh, wait, what is this? Additionally to the community distress starting all over the $6 million funhouse. So let's take a moment to add, and without any community input or vote via outside surveys from out of state. Yeah. In board minutes from about a month ago, she tried giving up her role as a liaison to the point. Craig, dude, I cannot wait to go back and read some minutes. I cannot. Lawsuits. Okay. So I don't see the propaganda that has hit anybody's brown box. I even have a brown box. And on Facebook, I don't see FH Stop posting anything except for, I think there's a barbecue coming up on May 17th. If you haven't gotten tickets, I think tickets are $20. And I think if you want to play cornhole is what I think I saw. I think it's $10 a person. So if you want to come out and support, I've seen that. And I don't think I've seen anything else more recent other than the ice cream social that was for um, um, Wayne and Lee, and that's passed. But I don't think on FH Stop we've seen anything else since then. Correct me if I'm wrong, Louise. Um, but we're not being inundated with propaganda from FH Stop. The attorneys hired by the insurance company to I want to go back. This POA board is separately putting out a message to the community to share the factual public document information that was filed with the North Carolina Business Court. About what? Is this that lawsuit? Is this the Dan Ritter lawsuit? Or is this something that the Fairfield Harbour has gone out? I don't understand why North Carolina, the factual public document information that was filed in business court. Is this in response to that lawsuit? Somebody give me some context here. Do we know? Oh, it says, okay, yes. Carol says yes. Okay. God, I have to remember he wrote a book. Okay. The attorneys hired by the insurance company to defend the POA were quite clear in what they said to the court. The FH Stop lawsuit is nothing more than a thinly veiled attempt by 67 out of 2,800 lots to control. Is it 67? Is it 71? Can we get our numbers straight, please? Numbers are important, as we have all come to realize in the past at least 24 hours. Numbers are important. Get it straight. 67 out of 2,800 lots to control the will of the majority and continue to campaign that has no defined end game or purpose other than to create chaos and disruption in the community. And I will remind everyone until I will die on this hill. 67, 71, the number of people that are on that lawsuit are not the only people. They are not trying to sway this entire community. There was a wrong done in how that vote to go from a majority to a supermajority went. That did not follow proper process and protocol based on our bylaws at the time before they were amended to have this supermajority. That is what this lawsuit is about. So I will make sure that people understand that the 67, it took a majority of us to vote Phil out and whatever his name was at the time. That was more than 67 people. Hundreds of people showed up, and you continue to point out these 67. Again, smokescreen, hope people forget, hope people are uninformed, hope people that just moved in last weekend see this number and are like, "Oh my god, I can't believe they would let these 67 do that." We are smarter than that. Do not play us for dumb. Do not. Reminder, Neil and Deb are people who will do people who will do what is best for Fairfield Harbour and work to improve the community for all. They do not affiliate with a collection of dissidents and agitators. I cannot stress to you enough the critical importance of voting for Neil and Debbie in this election, which will determine the future of Fairfield Harbour for years to come. Respectfully, Les Pendleton. Hold on a second. Craig, wait, I correct myself. It was liaison to the Harbor Club and the Marina from the 4-1 meeting. FHGO. Carol, what's this? FHG, Fairfield Harbor Golf? Something? You're going to have to help me out, Carol. Sorry. We're at an hour and a half here. But I am, I'm really disappointed in this letter. And I think I'm disappointed in this letter because, hold on a second. Additionally, to the community distress, the patio homes are on hold for now. At any time, they can come back to bite us. Note that the 385 was purchased to avoid any and all building on that green space. Yeah, Louise. I'm disappointed in this letter. I'm disappointed in any leader who feels like this is necessary to make themselves. The fact that he feels like he needs to jump in and get in front of this rather than let this election play out the way that it needs to. There was a meme that I saw, it's probably been several months ago, but it said something like, "Does the process know that we're following it?" Yeah, the process is the process. We have standard operating procedure. We have bylaws. We have people that are going to vote the way that they feel they need to based off of the vision that they cast for themselves, not the vision that this current board has cast for us. People have ideas in this community. And we cannot just blindly follow a board. Anyway, I don't need to tell you this. There are 13 on here right now. I don't need to tell you this. We're smart people. We can make the best decision for us. But at the end of the day, if you are new here to Fairfield Harbor or you just have no idea what is happening, I hope you'll take the time to ask some questions and not just ask the questions of the board and the office. Ask questions of your neighbors. Hey, I'm seeing this on Facebook, but I don't have any context. Like, what is happening? Ask me. You can call me anytime. My number is posted everywhere. And you can reach out to me on Facebook Messenger, which I don't check that often, but I will make it a point to. But I'm just very disappointed that someone who sees and has been a leader that we elected in took this step to intimidate, scare, gaslight all of us into thinking that we don't have options other than Deb and Neil when that is absolutely not the case. I hope that you will take the time to read, do your own research, ask some questions. Again, the 3 things that I mentioned last night that we need to do in the next couple weeks. Please come to candidates night if you can. There's only going to be spots for like 80 or so people in the room, and there will be a recording after. If all you can catch is the recording after, please listen to it. Make sure in Appfolio that your email address is up to date so that when ballots come out on June 2nd, you get that email. And on June 2nd, if you don't see the email in your inbox come the end of the day, please check your spam folder and your junk folder. Voting is so important here. And then the third thing that you can do is research, ask questions, participate in the process. Okay? Because that's the only way we all get better is if the more people that participate, the better the process is. Okay? So thank you so much for taking the time to read through this with me because, Craig, I actually bought a t-shirt. Let me tell you. Let me see if I can find my phone really fast. I bought a t-shirt that I am planning to wear to candidates night. And I love that I'm getting texts. I can tell that Chris and Barbara are Latino. So sorry, Chris and Barbara, that I didn't know that. And I wasn't checking my texts during this call. That's so funny. But I bought a t-shirt that says read books, drink coffee, dismantle systems of oppression. That's what I'm hoping it arrives before the candidates night on Thursday. That's what I'll be wearing. So I just oh wait, Carol, you asked a question. Are Deb and Neil members, the group backing the board? Are Deb and Neil members, the group backing the board? Deb and Neil, that's Deb Harris and Neil Watts, and they are the two candidates running for board positions that are backed by the current board based off of the information that I have seen so far and based off of this letter from Les where he tells us to vote for them because there's no other option. So, with that, I am going to go. I'm going to finish this glass of wine, read a little bit, and take a shower. But I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day and a wonderful rest of your week. Thank you so much for doing this and for being here with me. I love doing this. I would love to do this more. And quickly, actually, I don't want to share that yet. I have something in the works coming, and I hope that you will participate. I'm going to make sure that I get it out in plenty of time so that as many people as can. I would love to have 5,000 people on this live stream, and that's going to be my goal here in the next couple of days. So be on the lookout for more information from me. Have a good rest of your day, and we will talk soon. Bye, guys.